Okay, I guess Amazon hasn't shipped this week's anime as far as I could tell, so all I really have, it even took me a while to remember I had even this. I do have Initial D Legend 3 Dream, which arrived last week and not this week, so I have no idea what the hell Amazon is up to. It's they haven't actually said it's shipped. They just said it will arrive either today or tomorrow, and I still haven't received the shipping notification, so I have to assume never. So we'll do this for now because they're basically going down the route of, if it hasn't arrived by Friday, talk to us or something like that. And it looked like the system said there was an Amazon tracking number, but absolutely no information on anywhere it had been. I haven't checked today since I got home, but I figured we'd at least take a look at this. It's something. And if the real package arrives tomorrow, I will post a true anime DVD collection update. I guess that's what I'll call it. Region A. It's got an English dub. That's the only anime. If that hadn't arrived, I would literally have nothing to show because I'm not going to do an anime DVD collection update without anime and or with only Switch titles. So I got Yonder, the Cloud Catcher Chronicles, and The Lost Child. And I've played both a little, but I'll talk about those later. But I guess this is this week's anime DVD collection update. So I do believe as of last time, I said I was watching Elde live, but I didn't mention that I still had like 5 episodes to go. I think those last 5 episodes maybe don't change what I was talking about too much. Overall, it was okay, I guess. I think I mentioned last time there were individual characters a lot of individual characters I didn't like. I kind of liked the main character, felt like he was a little underutilized. I don't know if I mentioned that there were interesting ideas, and so overall, it was okay. I'm not sure what else to say other than it didn't feel like that was... I'm trying to remember what even happened in those last 5 episodes. This has been a week. Anyways, whatever it is, yeah, it's whatever. Next up, I watched Volume 1 of Arrow Manga Sensei. This one's kind of interesting because so far, no, I was going to say the only 2 characters I like are the main guy and his aunt, but actually that was the aunt, however you want me to pronounce it, you know what I mean. But actually it was the aunt in this one that was pretty good. This one, I kind of don't like most of the characters other than the main character, but it's kind of interesting because this anime still feels like it's a really smooth drink. So it's kind of sort of like a jalapeno smoothie or something like that, where, except maybe it needs to be the opposite order. Maybe like an ice cream spiky ball that hurts to chew, but you like the taste of ice cream or something like that. It's kind of this weird contradictory thing where I don't like the way a lot of the characters act and think, and they're rude. The main character plays along with a lot of it fine. He's a very generic let things flow over him kind of protagonist, so that also makes him seem kind of cool. Maybe unintentionally, just because it's designed that way so that you can actually just enjoy the harem forming around him or something like that. But there are little behaviors from everybody else in the show, at least all the main characters I've seen so far, that are like, no, no, no. But nothing that's so horrible that I would want to strangle everyone and everything, I guess. You know, sometimes you just have those moments where you want that to happen. And I guess it's interesting thinking about that because related to some of that stuff, I rewatched Gate, more or less. Pretty much, I didn't watch the entirety of it, but I did watch every single episode wherein because I have digital rips of the DVDs, I have access to it at my fingertips, so I would just go through the episodes, jump around in the episodes. So it was pretty much a condensed version of watching Gate, where I got to watch all my favorite scenes. And I kind of forgot that as awesome as the small girl on the guy's team was, you know, not the Japanese girl, and not to be confused with the 15-year-old or the wizard or the demigod or anything like that, who are intentionally designed to be very young looking, you know. The little girl that packs a big wallop and she's pretty much psychotic. I'd forgotten that she's kind of assaulty with the main character, which is interesting because that comes to this where I don't like girls who do that, and I guess I didn't really think of her very strongly one way or the other, but I think her insane streak is fun, and I guess the slapping stuff doesn't matter as much because she's not a very main character. She's very supporty, as in, like, she's not even like a part of the main guy's harem or anything like that. She's a character that they introduced that's a part of his unit, but the interaction is such that they happen to be interacting with them at that point in time, and not, now they're roommates, and she slapped him because she walked in on him in the bathtub and she had to, like, break the door or something stupid like that. So it's interesting because I kind of realized there's that disconnect, I guess. Anyways, it's different for this because the characters are there, they're interacting with him. I'm trying to remember if there was any physical assaulting of him. Usually it's calling him stupid or perverted or something like that for something that's really just the stereotypical she's being stupid, and because he's kind of going along with it instead of realizing what she's trying to say without saying or something like, I don't know, stuff. So overall, it's okay. I'd say it's better than Elde Live if I were to make a comparison, but I'm not sure because they're really different genres. And last but not least, for the watching stuff part, I've started watching Sortatorio. Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon side story? And it's interesting, but it's kind of weak. And part of the reason for that is this one is taking place at the same point in time as the events from Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls from a Dungeon, which basically means that that one is a very clearly defined story where you have a main character introduced, you have a circumstance introduced, you have a motivation introduced, and suddenly you kind of have a very good idea what you want to be cheering for the main character, because it isn't just that he wants to get strong. He wants to get strong for a reason, and you understand that reason. You want to kind of cheer him on as he tries to do that, and as things develop around him trying to do that. It's really neat in that regard. This is a little more aimless, where it shows where it integrates with parts from there, but some of the things diverge as they're telling their own story. I guess they diverge, but it feels like it's trying to play with the same motivation from their main story of they just want to get stronger, but the motivational twist behind that is just not there. It's disconnected. And at the same time, the characters, as neat as they are, were designed to kind of be more support characters, a very interesting wider universe, but as actually exploring that wider universe, that doesn't necessarily mean it's as exciting or interesting. Now, other people may actually have a different opinion just because the main story of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon has a very power trippiness to it that some people kind of feel was undeserved, unearned, or something like that. And you know, that's a valid point, and maybe because of that they prefer this side story, which, you know, does have Ai as the main character, and she's a very interesting character, but I don't know, it just feels like the story isn't quite as put together, especially since they're having to build it around stuff that is confirmed as having already happened in the other, maybe? I don't know. So I haven't finished watching it yet. In fact, I think I'm still on the first disc, so I'm maybe not quite halfway through, maybe getting close to that. But there were other distractions, and then a zombie-ish night last night. Yeah, I guess I didn't watch any. But I did play some Switch games, and for the ones that arrived today, Yonder was pleasant. I think that was the general idea and why I wanted to have it and maybe play it. It's basically kind of more like a 3D Harvest Moon variant, but it's an interesting variant from what I've seen. Basically, you'd almost wonder, given the setup, if there was potential combat, and there hasn't been any combat, but there has been murk, and so the idea is to clear murk, you have to find more sprites to make your ability to clear murk more powerful. Every area has a certain number of sprites, a certain number of murks, things like that, and I get the impression that as you build out further or something like that. I say build out, but that's not quite the right word. In fact, I'm not quite sure what's out beyond the main area, the main first area so far. But I know that you do eventually get a farm, and you get... It's got a interesting design so that it can exist within the 3D space that is the game. Because it's not like, oh yeah, there's this hill here, I'm going to pretend there's a farm there. That would have actually been pretty cool, but I can understand that being tricky to do. You can't just place it anywhere unless you're playing something like Minecraft, right? But, you know, the elements are still there. It seems to still be keeping track of which day of spring it is, which is a very Harvest Moon thing. There's animal taming, which is the first thing they actually have you do, but you can also... I guess I haven't tried a lot of the farming stuff yet. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting enough. For The Lost Child, I couldn't exactly remember why I was at least curious about it, so I fired it up, and I think I got a little insight into why, because the map navigation style is very Dark Queen of Krynn-ish. If you're not familiar with Dark Queen of Krynn, basically in the 90s, maybe even the late 80s, there were a bunch of computer games called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And the Krynn, or the Dragonlance Saga, was the main one that I was familiar with, which starts with Champions of Krynn, then Death Knights of Krynn, then Dark Queen of Krynn. With Dark Queen of Krynn, I remember being kind of the most ambitious of them, but Death Knights being one of the more playable, I guess. And maybe I mentioned those before because I do want to kind of go back and get a better feel for those games and see if I can like speedrun them or something. That project is so far away if I keep not finishing any other projects. Anyways, there's a grid maze navigation thing in there that's very rudimentary. This one has a more advanced version of it, but you can kind of still tell it's simple in that. I'm thinking it's mostly, its goal is to maybe try to be interesting storytelling wise, but I have to admit it is a little weak in that regard, at least as it begins. Like the very first screens are okay enough. They're kind of neat with this kind of falling star kind of thing and this text going on. But you kind of notice the text goes on a little longer than it really needs to, and then the characters start talking a little more than you think they need to, and it gives you some interaction that you don't know why, and it feels more like a visual novel than a dungeon crawling RPG. And all of this isn't necessarily bad, but it does mean that it does at least have a kind of weak beginning, I would say. Whether or not it's really interesting, I'm not sure. I got to the point where I was at the exit to the first layer, but they kind of neglected to mention that it was actually a layer until they had said a bunch of layer-related stuff and said, geez, I wonder why there's so many monsters in this layer, or something like that. And story-wise, it strikes me as maybe it would be a kind of so-so anime, if it was an anime, I guess. like, okay, there's characters and there's stuff, and I'm not quite sure if I can say I'm invested in a lot of the stuff, because they just kind of keep throwing words and ideas, and it's a little salady in that regard. And again, you know, it kind of doesn't really give you a goal or motivation, maybe a slight curiosity about what's going on, but again, that really just makes for a weak beginning. I haven't played beyond that, and I wasn't planning to. I was planning to play to the first save point so I could remember why I wanted to play the game. So I'm just talking about it a little bit, I guess. It talks about customizable parties, and I'm wondering if what I've seen so far kind of explains that, but I don't know if it explains it such that I would think it is notable, I guess. Beyond that, I did play something really important. That was the Octoling expansion for Splatoon 2. And I have to say that going into it, I didn't expect it to be so hard, because usually the single-player content of Splatoon games is challenging but not necessarily hard. You know, it's a good balance that makes it really fun. You kind of have fun just going through a stage, blasting stuff, even when you're like super powered later. You know, you're maybe not going to do it over and over and over again, but, you know, revisiting a stage can be kind of fun in Splatoon just because it's kind of a playground, a playland. It's about enjoying the physics of the game. And the Octoling expansion is a bit more trying to find challenges in the physics of the game, I guess. And they introduced a couple of new ideas as well along the lines. So there's like interesting single player stuff. Yeah, I left my phone unmuted just because this is not a real update. In fact, we could probably just check to make sure that wasn't Amazon saying anything. Nope, just right stuff reminded me of releases that aren't going to be here because Amazon is sitting on its ass for some reason. So Octoling expansion will do things like, oh, here's these specials that you maybe never played with in the other single player stuff, but there's some stuff of some really early examples. I cannot English appropriately. Some really early examples are, for example, jetpack stuff or ink pack, and some rollerball stuff. But I think there was more. And it was interesting playing it because it was challenging, and they kind of let you know how many stages there are, and there are quite a few stages, and it's like, oh god, and YouTube's already suggesting stuff that comes from doing all these, so I have to prioritize beating it, and so that's what my main priority Sunday was. And I succeeded. And if you're wondering how far I succeeded, yes, I did that part. That part was complete bullshit. That one is an example of Nintendo for some reason going a little too far, because the challenge was so upped that I couldn't really say it was fun. It was intentionally made to be unfair and unintentional, or unfair and unfair, and it taunts you as the last thing you may want to make sure happened. You know, you might it's so you got that, and some of the challenges themselves are also really tough, and some of them were also a little stupid. That one thing though, yeah, I don't want to say what it is. You'll know what it is when you play it, but you kind of have to take a couple steps from back, and the Octoling expansion as a whole is actually pretty great. I could see it being troublesome for some people because, for example, because I did a lot of training single-player stuff in the first Splatoon, I've got a couple of really good sniper shots there. I have a slightly steady hand or something, so I can aim. And I can see some of the challenges that involve the sniper rifle being hard for people who maybe don't have as steady a hand. So I don't know that my experience is 100%, because there could be other things that other people are really used to that I really sucked at. Yeah, I don't know. the important thing is, overall, I enjoyed doing it. It was exhausting, and thematically wise, it was actually very fun. Like, you can tell from the trailers, oh, it's got this theme to it, and not all those feelings are necessarily there, especially with that kick-ass soundtrack they had for that trailer. You're like, why am I not hearing music like this when I'm in the various trials? They seem to be a little more calm and subdued. There are a couple that are kind of moving in a kind of also calm, saluted way. Not like I don't think I'm saying words correctly, but it's good for kind of having this feel of being in a series of chambers, I guess, connected by this subway, and expanding the subway and opening things up is actually pretty fun. And then you got all that, and you've got this kind of good feeling where all the imagery and the themes and the ideas, they feel like they mix together really well. And then they introduce you to the end game, where there's a tonal shift, which is all about kind of building up from that to what that feeling that was in that trailer. So overall, as an experience, it was pretty good. There were little flaws here and there, things that I think Nintendo could have done a lot better. Things that I can't really say here because, you know, it's all spoiler. But overall, I thought it was actually really fun and really great to play. I do like that you can spend the currency to get random crap, because it means that I have a reason to go back there. I've already gone back to single player stuff to, you know, like, especially replay the bosses, because I like boss battles, and Splatoon 2 has some fun bosses. I think maybe Splatoon 1, I don't know, some of them are better, some of them are better in the first game, others are better in the second game. Final boss was better in the first game as far as I can tell, although he's more playable in the second game, I think. But all in all, I do like that the Octoling expansion has given me something else to play for, especially since if I earn points, then I can trade it for pretty much trivial stuff. But it is still stuff that can help build up, and if I'm going to be playing random single-player content, I might as well play random single-player content that eventually gives me more money and more chunks and stuff like that. They tend to be small amounts, but even little amounts actually goes a long way. So outside of that, again, for whatever reason, Amazon is being really weird with this shipment. I wondered if it had something to do with, I think, a hurricane passed through, but I didn't know that the distribution centers that were sending my stuff were coming from there. So I thought maybe either something got delayed and they didn't ship everything else like you would think Amazon would, or they did try to ship it, but they lost the box and they're being pieces of shit about having done that, and they're just twiddling their thumbs and hoping that oh, it somehow shipped out anyways, but maybe an employee fucking stole it or something. I think it'd be pretty hard for an employee to steal it, so something stupid is going on there. It's also making me hesitate to pre-order next month's anime, just because, like, if next week this same damn thing happens, then I have to start questioning why I'm buying my anime from Amazon, because they certainly make the shipping affordable, and I think their pre-order price guarantee stuff may mean that I'm spending less by shopping at Amazon, because while I think Right Stuff has discounts, I'm not sure if their discounts are as much as, oh, well, you pre-ordered Clanad Blu-ray Season 1 for $90, but it went down in price to $45, so here's $45 back. I'm not sure if Right Stuff is that much of a price difference. Maybe I should start thinking about considering it. I don't know. And again, if for some reason Amazon stuff arrives tomorrow, I'll do a true anime DVD collection update for this week that includes those. And it won't be the same shirt. This is my Wednesday shirt, or my every other Wednesday shirt. So y'all don't get to see this one too much, if at all. But yeah, I'll do a second video tomorrow if stuff arrives. Otherwise I'll see y'all next week.